Hello again, welcome back to the potting shed. Today I'm going to be propagating some spider plant offsets in Lecca. Something a bit different. I've never done this before, but I'm keen to give it a go, and I think it's going to save me a load of time, be really effective and produce a lot quicker results. That's my theory anyway, so hang around to the end and we'll see whether my theory pays off or not. So if you watch my spider plant video at the end of last year, I actually repotted the plant and cut it in half so to allow some extra space in my hanging basket that I keep in the kitchen, and that has transformed that plant because it has really stimulated new growth, and as a result it's actually sent out some pups or offsets to make new baby spider plants, which I'm really pleased to see. So this gives me the opportunity to do a bit of an experiment because I've propagated in water, I've propagated in soil, and they all work, and I imagine they would work fine in this situation as well. But there's one issue. You have to, when you're propagating, you have to give them a little bit of extra attention because hydration and humidity is really key in the early stages when they're still growing roots. If cuttings or baby plants dry out in the slightest, those delicate new roots will just shrivel up and die, and you will lose that cutting. So it's really important to get the moisture right, much more than usual. And my issue is I've got loads of house plants and I'm not very good at keeping on top of the watering for everyone. It's not unusual for me to water a plant. It feels like I turn around for 30 seconds, I come back and it's bone dry. It happens all the time. I'm just not that organized. So when it comes to cuttings, it feels like I'm checking on them a few times a day to make sure that the humidity and the moisture levels are just right. They can't dry out at all. And if we get a hot sunny day and I'm not at home, I'm fretting thinking if I get back those plants are going to be dried out, and that's going to be an issue. You need to keep it in a bright location for them to photosynthesize, but you don't want them in such a bright location that they heat up and dry out too quickly as well. So with that in mind, I've got some Lecca pebbles here. Well, excuse the noise. It's not actually Lecca pebbles, but they're sintered clay pebbles, which is exactly what Lecca is. Lecca is just a brand name, but it's going to work exactly the same. I found this bag in my garden centre, super cheap. It was reduced in a clearance section in the winter, and I thought I have no idea what I'm going to do with this, but I'm going to buy it because it's cheap. And I've always wanted to play around with Lecca or sintered clay pebbles because they do lend an opportunity for low maintenance, really, because you can get the watering just right and you don't have to constantly change it. So I'm going to put this down because this bag's making a noise, and I'll explain more about it as we do it. So here are the spider plant offsets. We've actually got a few here. There's one big one at the end. We've got 1, 2, 3, there's probably 4 here. So all we're going to do at this stage is chop them up individually and we'll see what we've got. So this is the main shoot, main offset from the plant that was coming down here, and I've just cut it off so I could bring it into the potting shed from the kitchen. So we're literally going to take this. Sorry if you can hear that, there's a bumblebee buzzing around the potting shed in the background. I think he made a home in here last year and is looking to do the same thing. Well, if he wants to, he can, because they're endangered. And if he needs a place to stay, then he's welcome to stay in the potting shed. There's another one. Got to be careful here because you don't want to end up cutting the wrong thing. It's quite dense. That's another one. Now this is actually like a big clump of many, but I think this will grow as one plant quite well. There's already some, don't know if that's going to focus, there's already some roots starting to make little appearances there, so this I think will grow very well. So there we are, we've got a group of several smaller ones descending in size. This is what I plan to use Here I have, this is a orchid pot that I've had kicking around the potting shed. As you can see at the back, orchid pots have a lot of holes in the bottom and this raised up area as well here, which I think will be really useful for drawing up water, because I'll show you at the end. But the idea is that there needs to be as much surface area and contact with the water to draw up water into the pot, but I'll show you how it works when we're done. So let's put this, fill it up with some, I'll call it Lecca. I'm getting bored of correcting myself and saying sintered clay pebbles. Everyone knows it as Lecca, let's call it Lecca. Trusty harvest knife. I'm zoomed in a bit, aren't I? This thing I use for everything. It's the best. Right. So, I don't know how much you saw of that with my arms in the way, but I quite like the fact there's lots of different size pebbles in this. The smaller ones are going to be useful for gripping hold of the smaller plantlets. So there's a bit of dust coming up from this as I was putting in, so I'm just going to run some water through here on the tap just to get rid of any dust before we get started. Right, there we go. They just rinse through, get rid of the dust. So let's bring this forward. It's always awkward trying to work with a camera over your shoulder. Anyway, I'll use these scissors, I think, as a dibber. So I'm going to get the first one here. And they are going to move around anyway, but there we go. That's him in there. He's taken up a lot of the pot, hasn't he, really? But that'll be all right. And we'll get the next one down. Now I'm going to fill up more clay pebbles in here just to hold them nicely, so I don't need to put them too deep down at this stage. You don't want to damage the ends here. This is where the roots are going to come out at the end, so you need to be very careful not to damage those bits, or else you'll damage any chance of them actually forming roots. So I'm just, these smaller ones, I'm literally just sitting them in here because I'm going to add more pebbles. The bigger ones I can push down a little deeper by moving the pebbles aside. This one's still attached to its offset. There's a couple there, but makes it a bit bigger. There you go. There. That's worked out quite nicely. So that's all comfortably nestled in there. I'm just going to put a few smaller ones around the top to support them. I'm just going to put these small ones down the sides to support the base of the plant. They're just going to sit down in the gaps and sort of join everything together. And there we have it. So there we have the propagated babies, and now they're in the Lecca, and what I want to do is fill up the base of this tray here. This is just, I had some cherry tomatoes or something, and I keep all of these little plastic trays. They're great to reuse, and it just doesn't make sense buying more plastic when you're throwing away plastic, so I try and reuse as much plastic as I can. So we have them all set in. I'm maybe going to give it a little water in the top just to make sure we've got plenty of water around the base of the plant and they're all settled in nicely. But gently now, not too heavy. Don't want to disturb anything too much, but as you can see, the water's running straight through into the bottom. And now I'm going to fill up that base nice and deep. If you can remember, the base of that pot goes up about 1 centimetre or so, maybe ½ an inch. So I'm going to keep plenty of water at the bottom here. And what this will do is provide a constant reservoir of water, and the clay pebbles will act like a wick. There we go. And this water will get wicked up through the clay pebbles, all of the holes in the bottom of the pot and that go up into it as well is going to draw this water up through here, which means all of this is going to be constantly hydrated. So there's a constant level of hydration and humidity for the new roots to establish. And not only that, there's not soil here because the pebbles are round. There's lots of little gaps around the roots, which provides great opportunity for air and oxygen. And oxygen around the roots is going to make them grow a lot quicker. So we've got humidity, we've got water, and we've got oxygen. A great combination to allow roots to establish and grow on strongly. So this is my theory. This is what I've made. So I'm going to put this on a bright windowsill without direct sun coming through. Even though there's plenty of water here, we don't want this getting cooked by the direct sun. And so just to make sure, I'm going to keep that out of the direct sun, but have it in a bright location. It's going to be inside, so there's going to be stable, warm conditions, plenty of humidity, and plenty of air down to the roots. So I've got a good feeling that this will do quite well. So hang around, because we're going to fast forward maybe 3 weeks to a month, and we'll see how we've got on, and we'll see what the results of this are. But I'm quite optimistic about this, and more so in the fact that I haven't got to be checking on this every 24 hours to maintain the humidity and maintain the moisture levels, because this thing is doing it all for me. It's like a self-watering system with the water in here. All I've got to do is make sure this stays topped up, probably once every 2 or 3 days, depending on how quickly this evaporates and how quickly it gets drawn up through here, and you'll get evaporation from the surface as well. But let's see what happens. All right, let's fast forward in 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we are, guys. It's about a month later, approximately, somewhere along 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. And this experiment's gone very well. I'm very happy with this method of propagating cuttings. They seem to have rooted really well. I haven't messed with them or anything. A good way to check to see if there's some decent roots on your plants is just simply give it a little tug. And if it doesn't want to come out, then there are some decent roots holding it in there. Now, obviously, you don't want to do that too soon, because you'll just pull it out and damage the roots. So give it at least 3 or 4 weeks to settle in and grow some roots before you do that. The only thing I've noticed, if I just push this back a little bit, these are the clay balls that I've been using. That has worked very well, but I'm not entirely sure. I've just left water in the bottom here constantly and just topped it up every now and again, but I'm not sure how aggressively it draws the water up. They're all still moist. If I hold that there, if I just put my finger in, I can feel that the clay balls are slightly moist on the surface, but I think it's a gradient. I think they're really wet here, and then they get dry and dry and dry. So what I have been doing when I've been topping it up, I've just been getting a little water and just putting it in the top, because although the capillary action of this is drawing the water up, it's probably not really wet up here. And because the cuttings early on need plenty of moisture to be able to utilize what little root they have. Don't forget, there's very little root on these plants. So when they're immersed completely in water, it works perfectly, because they can get as much moisture as they need when they're in 100% water. I did notice, you probably can't see that on the video, but there is a tiny little dry end here, and there might have been another one, yes, over this side. There's a tiny dry end here and a dry end there, which to me, yep, one there as well. So to me, that's saying they have dried out a little bit. The sun does come round in my kitchen here, so they might have dried out a bit quicker. If it hits this pot, it's going to dry out a little bit quicker. So that's my experience with this method. It has worked very well, and they look very healthy and happy, but I would every now and again just give it a little top up at the top here, just to moisten the top third The rest of that's going to be fine anyway, but maybe once a week do that just to give them an extra drink early on when they need that extra moisture. Now what will happen over time, these roots are going to travel down, 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 and they'll seek out that extra moisture, which is going to improve and encourage a bigger root system actually. So that becomes less of an issue later on. And if you actually want to keep it in this growing method, there's no reason why not. Then what you're going to get is a very strong and healthy root system, and then you don't have to worry about watering from the top, because all of the lower roots here will be in this much more saturated water level further down. But early on, when they're still just starting to put a few roots out, the smaller plants I think would probably benefit. Now, I don't really want to pull these out and show you the roots, but I've got several in here, so let's try one of the smaller ones, and we can risk damaging it just because we have several as an experiment. Oh yeah, they're really in there. There we go. Look at that. What a lovely, strong couple of roots. Only 2 roots there, but very strong, and they're looking very good. So that's a solid little plantlet, and that will do very, very well. I'm going to do that after the video. I'm going to put him carefully back where he was. And I may just continue this and keep this going in this pot here. There's no reason why not. I'm just interested to see how it all works, and if there's a point where there's too much root. I don't know, but in the meantime, I like it. I think it's a nice method, which means you've got that good balance of oxygen and moisture. I'm pleased with this little experiment. It's something that I was interested to do with these clay balls, and yes, it's worked very well. So that pretty much rounds out this video for this spider plant propagation video. Thank you very much for watching. Please give it a massive thumbs up if you've enjoyed it and found it useful. And of course, I will catch you very soon on another video. Bye for now.